I hate this. I really do hate this. I hate participating in this debate on terms that are set by children. But fine, I'll accept that my disagreement on the issues will be framed in such a way that I'm supposed to look insensitive to child victims, and therefore my perspective should be considered suspect or even invalid altogether. And I've never been a big Marco Rubio guy. But I gotta say, I have a huge amount of respect for what he did on Wednesday night. He participated in CNN's town hall event on gun violence in Florida, and he stood in front of a stacked audience with whom he disagrees on the issues, and he stood before victims of a horrible shooting event, knowing full well he was going to take a lot of the blame, but he did it anyway. Because that's what a good senator does. He listens to his constituency, even if they don't treat him fairly. And he did it without ripping them back. He did it without telling them they're wrong. He sought only to explain his position without belittling theirs. And he asked only for that for which we should all strive. The assumption of good intentions and solidarity with your community, even for those with whom you disagree.
I think all of us would like to see action, but I want to tell you what we're going to struggle with. We are a nation of people that no longer speak to each other. We are a nation of people who have stopped being friends with people because of who they voted for in the last election. We are a nation of people who have isolated ourselves to only watch channels that tell us that we're right. Tonight, people who have different points of view are going to talk about an issue that I think we all believe, and that is that this should never have happened and it can never happen again. If we want to ensure that it doesn't, then we are going to have to find a way as a nation to work with people that may not agree with us on certain things, without accusing one another of being evil people.
And good for Rubio for setting civil terms for this discussion. But the problem is he's too late. The terms for this discussion have already been set, and as you may recall, there is no room for well-intentioned people with varying views on how best to solve what we all agree is a major problem.
My message for the people in office is you're either with us or against us. We are losing our lives while the adults are playing around.
That was Cameron Kasky, one of the Parkland student activists who was given time to question Senator Rubio at this event. Do I have a problem with a child victim of a tragedy being given the floor to ask a policymaker what we can do to fix the problem? I do not. But do I have a problem with a child victim of a tragedy being given a blank check to be completely and unjustifiably disrespectful and accusatory with a policymaker who has personally done nothing wrong, yet still be celebrated as some kind of hero? Yeah, that's what bugs me. Cameron starts off with some subtle shade before throwing Rubio everything but the double middle fingers. And actually, the double fingers might have been comparatively respectful in this case. He starts by congratulating himself for being a good enough person to shake the hands of these politicians.
Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm not gonna listen to that.
Look, I'm not saying he has to shake the hand of anybody. Be respectful if you want. Be disrespectful if you want. But don't be underhanded and try to play it both ways. Well, I wasn't going to shake your hand because you're scum, but hey, I'm such a good person that I'll do it anyway. Besides, Cameron, it's clear that you wanted to be disrespectful anyway, since you consider Marco Rubio to be akin to the school shooter himself.
Senator Rubio, it's hard to look at you and not look down the barrel of an AR-15 and not look at Nicholas Cruz, but the point is you're here, and there are some people who are not.
Well, hey, you're basically a child murderer, but thanks for coming out. That's real big of you. And now that I've sufficiently poisoned the well, let's get right down to some questions, shall we? If you legitimately view Rubio as akin to a killer, what is the purpose of your questions? What could he possibly say to redeem himself? Nothing. Of course, but this isn't about redemption. This isn't about ideas. This isn't about compromise or finding common ground to solve a common problem. This is simply about flogging a wrong thinker at the altar.
I need to ask two things of you. Number one, Chris Grady, can you stand up? This is my friend who's going to the military. I need you to tell him that he's going to live to make it to serve our country.
Not only are you going to live to serve our country, you and all of you have a chance to change our country. Change not just our laws, but the way we talk about our laws. So absolutely.
Good for Rubio for not taking this kid's bait. But I'm not a politician. In fact, I think this channel probably precludes me from ever running for office, so I will gladly indulge. Do you think it's government's job to guarantee your safety? And how can government possibly do that while still affording you freedom? If you want guaranteed safety, let's get you a padded room and a straitjacket and a feeding tube. There's a role for government in minimizing some danger and punishing those who commit crimes, of course. But to the extent we are all free actors, we all assume danger, even lethal danger, each and every day. All government can do is protect your fundamental rights. And one of those fundamental rights is your right to ensure your own safety to the utmost extent. That's exactly the purpose of the amendment that you're here to minimize, which is hugely ironic. But now that we've heard you rip the second, let's hear you rip the first. Well, actually, before we get to that, it's time for a hypocritical virtue signal break.
Guys, look, this isn't about red and blue. We can't boo people because they're Democrats and boo people because they're Republicans. Anyone who's willing to show change, no matter where they're from, anybody who's willing to start to make a difference is somebody we need on our side here.
Yes, I agree. Let's aim for unity and focus on common goals with the assumption of good intent on the part of your opposition. A good way to start doing that would be not equating them with child murderers without evidence.
Senator Rubio, can you tell me right now that you will not accept a single donation from the NRA in the future? I wish I could have asked the NRA lady a question. I wish the NRA lady I could have talked to, because I would ask her how she can look in the mirror, considering the fact that she has children, but, you know, maybe she avoids those.
How do you look in the mirror? Accusing someone of being a bad mom, not with any kind of evidence of actually being a negligent parent, but solely on the basis of a policy disagreement with you. How do you look in the mirror after you slander people simply because they have different ideas about how to achieve the same goal that you seek? How do you look in the mirror, knowing you hypocritically and repeatedly demand decency from others while failing to show them even a minimal amount in return? But to your question, Cameron, why should you be able to hold others' participation in the political process hostage? You are a participant in this debate. You have a right to be, a right I will defend. You should have your voice heard. So why shouldn't the millions of law-abiding members of the NRA also have their voices heard? Why should you be able to silence them? You know, Cameron, the more I look at you, the more I see Stalin at a gulag. But hey, at least you're here. I really respect you for that.
No, the answer to the question is that people buy into my agenda. And I do support the Second Amendment. And I also support the right of you and everyone here to be able to go to school and be safe. And that's why I support the things that I have stood for and fought for during my time there.
More NRA money?
That is the wrong way to look. First of all, the answer is people buy into my agenda.
You can say no.
Second,
so right now, in the
name
name of 17 people, you cannot ask the NRA to keep their money out of your campaign?
What possible evidence do you have to blame the NRA for what happened in Parkland? Did the NRA arm Nicholas Cruz? No, they did not. Did the NRA train Nicholas Cruz? No, they did not. Did the NRA unilaterally defeat some legislation that would have stopped Nicholas Cruz? No, they did not. Does the NRA even want people like Nicholas Cruz to have firearms? According to NRA spokeswoman Dana Lash, who spoke later at the town hall event, no, they do not.
I don't believe that this insane monster should have ever been able to obtain a firearm.
There is no causal link between the NRA and what happened in Parkland. This demand of yours is, again, a tactic to silence people who disagree with you.
I think in the name of 17 people, I can pledge to you that I will support any law that will prevent a killer like this.
No, but I'm talking
getting
NRA money.
No, because...
matter of fact,
guys,
I bet we can get people in here to give you exactly as much money as the NRA would have. Can you stand up and donate to that real quick? Okay, not a lot, but we'll get it.
But that's the point. The NRA donated a measly $10,000 to Rubio this last election cycle, an election cycle in which he raised over $25 million total with which to campaign. You can give Marco Rubio $11,000 right now, and it won't matter, not just because that's a comparatively inconsequential amount of money, but because Marco Rubio votes in favor of the Second Amendment because he believes in the Second Amendment, not because the NRA has bribed him to.
Okay, so I knew that was going to happen. NRA, please just keep the money out of Rubio, okay? If he wants to run again, you guys...
Thank you, Cameron. Appreciate it.
Why is your solution to silence the speech of others And why should you have that power? The solution, Cameron, is not to tell other people what to do with their candidate support and with their speech. The solution is to start your own competing organization and defeat them with better candidates and better speech. I keep preaching the importance of believing in the good intentions of your opposition, and this particular group of Parkland kids that CNN keeps featuring is a serious test in upholding that principle, at least for me personally. They have just experienced a horrendous act of evil. They have suffered in ways I hope I never will, and I do believe they are sincere and well-intentioned in their beliefs. But if they want to succeed in their activism efforts, they're going to have to win people not by silencing their opposition, but by persuading their opposition. And that doesn't happen by insisting that other people's political activism is immoral and should be shut down. That doesn't happen by insisting other people's political speech is immoral and should be shut down. And that sure as hell doesn't happen by likening your opposition to child murderers, even when they prove the exact opposite, by greeting you with saintly patience and understanding in response to your accusations. With every display like this, my position on Second Amendment rights becomes more entrenched, not more compromising, and not because I'm an uncompromising person. In fact, quite the opposite, I hope. It's because you are showing me there is in fact no compromise to be reached. It is either surrender to you in full or face your consequences. And I hate to choose your consequences, Cameron, but forgive me, you're just not that intimidating. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it.